Howdy everybody, welcome to VTS24. My Sony camera's on the blink this month, so I'm kind of have to use the webcam, which explains the big goofy phones, and it's a different setup than usual. Got to keep things fresh, got to keep things different. No, actually my other camera's on the blink, but hopefully it'll get fixed next month and we'll be back to normal me. Anyways, welcome aboard to VTS24. This is for February 2007. That's right, 24 months, 2 years of the video tutorial service. Who'da thunk it? I want to say thanks first to everybody, all subscribers, past, present, and future. Those born, not yet born, all of you. I appreciate it. I'm always encouraged when folks send me emails saying, boy, you really opened up some doors for me this month, or wow, it finally made sense, or it really helps. And you know, it's nice to know that I'm helping people, you know, somehow, some way, that this crazy way of thinking about animation actually makes sense for some people. I'm sure it doesn't make sense for everybody. I've never pretended that my way will work for everybody or that it's the only best way to do things. But as much as possible, I've tried to pattern how I think about computer-generated animation as much as possible after stop motion or claymation or traditional animation, in the sense of just how you work with things. Computer animation is the only medium that completely reinvented the paradigm of how animation was done when it was created. And I'm not sure it reinvented it for the better, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought that a lot of things got tossed out, not out of a desire to disregard what came before, just out of the sheer weight of ignorance. Because computer animation was not an artist-driven thing when it started. It was driven by technologists, and to a large degree still is, in a lot of ways, driven by technologists. Artists are employed to use it, but the people driving the bus of workflow and how things are done, a lot of the things that were done, that are done now, that are taught by lots of really talented, well-meaning people for how to animate, are just reiterating workarounds to accommodate primitive technology 15 years ago, or 12 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 8 years ago. And we're at the point now where I think we're free from the technological bounds in a lot of ways, and we're allowed to take the technology and bend it to the will of an animator, of a person who can understand animation, the way animation has been taught and done for 80 plus years in all different other mediums, whether it was clay or hand drawn, or whether it was stop motion puppets or cutouts or shadows or whatever. You know, there's just something about it where we can now understand, and that's encouraging to know that my silly little crusade to kind of bring that back into the workflow of things and how you do things is helpful to people. And it's not just about workflow, it's about being able to see things as well. But you can only talk about the principles so much before you kind of say, okay, great, you showed me that's not any good, now show me how to fix it. And that's kind of where we've been going for about the last year in the VTS, is not just showing you what's good, like this is a good arc, this is a bad arc, or this is a good silhouette, this is a bad silhouette. That was like the first year of animation training here on the old video tutorial service. But for here, for where we're at now, it's really just been focusing on how. Okay, I've got this box. How do I make it work? So I'm glad to be involved in this, and I'm going to continue to be glad to be involved in it. That was a pretty awkward way of saying I hope I keep doing this for a good while to come. There's still so much to cover. We haven't even touched things like facial animation and performance, and you know, clean up and polish and details, and you know, really getting into the deeper level stuff of, you know, presentational abstracts of poses, and how to really push things, and that next level of where's you know, CG animation going as far as style choices. And there's so many things to talk about that, you know, 2 years seems like a long time already, but at the same time it seems like we just got started and we have so much more to go. So that's enough rambling. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wax nostalgic or something like that. Anyhow, welcome to VTS24. We are continuing our discussion of post-blocking cleanup. Last month, VTS23, very important video. You need to get it for you to really grasp what's going on with VTS24. So if you haven't watched 23 yet, get it, watch it, okay? Dig it up, refresh yourself, okay? Because 24 builds on that. I don't spend a whole lot of time reiterating what I went over in 23. I'm hopping right into what's going on next. And just a basic overview of how I tend to clean scenes. I block very specifically. I really rely on making the drawings work. I try as much as possible from drawing to drawing to clean up the poses and the breakdowns so that the arcs and the paths of motion and the patterns and the silhouettes and all these things work just image to image, no in-betweens whatsoever. Because if those work, then you know with a high degree of certainty that the in-betweens should work, okay? So that's why I spend a lot of time talking about breakdowns, like many months talking about breakdowns, because breakdowns really are the key to unlocking great animation, in my opinion. Great poses, you can have limited animation with great poses, okay? You can just crossfade great poses. And even timing, to a certain degree, is completely divorced of this. But for full animation, for like just full, beautiful stuff in motion that looks good, breakdowns are the key. They unlock so many treasures. So I spent a long time talking about breakdowns, and now what we're going to talk about is how to take it that next step, to go into the scary world of where the computer starts in betweening for us. And I tend to work stepped, linear, spline. I get a lot of people ask me, well, isn't it just easier to just go right to spline and go with it? Maybe, maybe not. The reason why I prefer not to do it is because my crusade in animating on the computer is to constantly force the computer to do what I want it to do. I don't want the computer to tell me what to do. I don't want the computer trying to do something until I tell it to do something. So really, a lot of my workflow is built around telling the computer to just sit down, be quiet, and wait. And whenever you put it into spline, the computer says, oh goody, I get to try and do ease-ins and ease-outs. That's what spline tangents are. They got those handles and soft in, soft out. Oh, goody, goody, it's my turn to find out how I can have something overshoot and how I can have something settle back. So you get these overshoots and, you know, the tangent handles go flying off. And you get so much junk from the computer. It's moving, yes. Oftentimes it's moving smoothly, yes. Many times it's not moving well, and there's a difference. There's a difference between moving smoothly and moving well. Something can move smooth but not very well. Something can move well but not smooth. Okay, always aim for moving well. And so it's my job as the animator to tell the computer to just shh, 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 be quiet, wait your turn, and you'll get to do what I ask you to do. It's not going to get hurt. It's just silicon and electronics. You can tell it, you can abuse it, you know, you can call it dirty names if you like. I really don't care. It's not going to be upset. So you just make it do what you want it to do. Okay? And so I prefer to use linear curves right after the step blocking, because linear is just asking the computer to do the dumbest possible thing. Okay? Just give me a linear interpretation from point A to point B over the given number of frames. Nothing else. I just want the simplest math you can possibly come up with. And then I'll decide what I want to do with it. And so what I do is I build out the shape, the character, the nature of the movement in linear, and it's really especially evident in the graph editor. When you start looking at the F-curves in the graph editor, and I'll show it to you when I do the screen grab session, you'll see how I'm really crafting and constructing how the graph editor's curves will look for every attribute. And what that's doing is that's putting me in the driver's seat and telling the computer to do what I want it to do, instead of me saying, give me something, computer, and I hope I like it. Well, here, computer, let me try if I tweak this tangent handle. Will that work? Well, here, computer, let me see if I can delete this key. Will that work? Here, computer, let me move this key and see, does that work? You know, instead of guessing and trying to chase what the computer's given me and fix it, I'm crafting what I want it to do. Okay? Yeah, maybe I'm a control freak, but why not be? It's a computer, right? If you're going to control anything, you know, small insects, easily influenced children, and a computer. Okay, small dictatorial pursuits in life, but you get the idea. It's really just about telling the computer to get out of the way and let the artist do his job. And so I craft what these curves are going to look like. So then cleaning them up is really nothing. Cleaning them up is easy. Instead of making spline part the hardest part of the animation, I make it the easiest part of animation. Probably in 2 months after I go through cleaning up limbs and some things like this, I'll actually show you how it is just so amazingly easy if you follow and do things and you tell the computer what you want to do. Now there's a caveat here. A caveat means a warning. Okay, you gotta take this warning. You gotta know what you're doing, which means you're gonna make mistakes if you're younger and newer at this stuff. The other thing is, you can't rely on happy accidents this way. Not very many, anyways. To work this way requires you to think through the scene more than you probably have ever thought through a scene before. At least to the level of a traditional animator who draws everything, okay? Whose only tools are a pencil and a blank piece of paper, all right? Here we get endless sheets of paper and endless drawings, and we try to make the drawings better. But to work this way, you have to be willing, as an animator, to earn your money. You have to be willing to think through the scene all the way to the point that even a traditional animator does it, where they're responsible for everything, even the lines on the page. Okay, we're not responsible for the lines on the page initially, but we are ultimately. So that's one caveat here. You just can't happy accident your way through this way of working. If you're still in happy accident land, I would encourage you to move beyond that, but I'm not gonna judge you or anything like that, because hey, I've been there. I was there for many years, so trust me, I know what that's like. It's a comfortable neighborhood at times, but I would encourage you to step beyond that and try and really do something to challenge yourself and say, hey, can I animate? Am I really an animator? Can I really do this? Can I think that far through? Am I willing to put my stamp on the scene and let it stand or fall for what I'm doing? Okay. And one last note about working linear versus spline and all these other things. Yes, you can get to tweaking curve tangents right away, but I have this thing. Once again, I'll show you in a couple of months, and I do a little bit of an example. I'll do a little bit of an example in this screen grab session where I show you why. It's a little snippet, but we'll explore it more in probably a month or two. But I have this saying: if it looks good in linear, it'll look great in spline. All right. So if I craft the motion where the computer is doing nothing, as little as possible, and it looks good, then when I start asking the computer to do what it's good at, which is smooth motion and clean math, then it will look really, really good. And that's how I've been working for the last number of years, and it's worked out quite well for me. So anyways, without further rambling, let's hop on and you guys can see how I clean it. The first thing though, the principal theme this month is cleaning the core. Okay, got to clean that core, and I'll explain more in a bit. To pick up where we left off last month, I just want to kind of remind you where we were. We have this little action here of our simple guy trying to swat this ball here, and each of these keys is really I've got keys, I've got breakdowns, I got moving holds, I got settles, I got all kinds of things in here. Like here I need to mark this as a settle, so let me mark that as a settle. Okay. I've updated my my camera tool to kind of include some things. Well, one, the frame counter is helpful, and the thirds lines and stuff. But this little thing up here is just a little something I made to kind of help me keep track of what's going on. And it's just a little widget to help me kind of remind myself of what it is I'm doing. Because sometimes you get a lot of keys in here and you kind of forget what each one is for. And so it's just a little thing to kind of help me know. Like this is a keyframe. All right, key, breakdown, secondary breakdown, a moving hold. Is it an anticipation, an ease, an extreme, or a settle? You know, and these are completely arbitrary. It's up to me. There's no rules. It's just something that I wrote and marked down to kind of help myself. You can do the same thing with a piece of paper. I just decided to build it into my camera tool. Um, so this right here is a moving hold with a settle, and then this right here is an ease or a breakdown, and this right here is a key for an anticipation, and this right here would be a hold for an extreme. Okay, and so what happens is the little widget remembers what it is, and then this is a breakdown for an ease. This is a primary breakdown, and that's a breakdown, and I'm calling that a key. It's kind of like an extreme. Each of these things is kind of, you know, getting from here to here. Could I call this a key? Yeah, sure, I could call it a key, but I'm calling it a breakdown. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's the definitions are completely arbitrary, you know. So could I call this a key? Yeah, sure. I just mark it as a key, and we'll be done with it, you know. It's really just kind of, there's no rule here. It's just me trying to give some structure to this thing. But anyways, I've got the big difference if you watch VTS23, and if you haven't watched VTS23, you need to watch it for this to make sense, because really what I've done is right here there's no interpret in betweening it all going on here in this animation. Okay, there's just, it's being held. All the tangents and all the splines for the motion curves are just set to stepped. Okay, and then so the reason why is because I don't want the computer telling me what to do, and it's a dumb in-betweener. It's a really stupid assistant. It doesn't understand. It can't figure things out very well, and so I need to make sure that I give it all the information it needs to do the job right. And that means that I gotta mark out things like the ends of moving holds. Okay, I could, you know, I mean, realistically, I could go ahead and delete that, you know, and it's not really changing things much, but I need it because I know that when I switch this over to linear, or basically start asking the computer to in between it. If I don't do it, it will drift slowly between this and this, you know. So again, let's go ahead and just for giggles turn all of these things to linear down here, just so you can see. Okay, go ahead and mark that a little bit bigger. Okay, so this stuff's linear. All right, so there's a nice moving hold, and then it's starting to move back. Okay, now let's say I take all these things and I delete this, and I didn't put that moving hold in here, and now all of a sudden he's just drifting backwards, and that stinks. You know, that's like mushy. You know, that stinks. Who likes that? I don't like it. Is undo all that stuff and just put this back. Okay, we need to mark out that's a moving hold right there. Okay. So when we do that, then we have some definition to this thing. And this is what I was talking about last month, is you need to define this stuff. You need to put these breakdowns, you need to put these moving holds in there. You need to put these extremes, these going from here to here is an extreme. I could leave this out in a blocking phase and sell it to the director, but just because the director bought it doesn't mean that I'm ready to start in-betweening here. Okay, I need to mark this out, or else it's just going to mush from this to this, and that's not good animation. It's not going to look good, and it's frustrating. So you got to take that step. Go ahead and watch VTS23. It's like one of those things that if you've ever struggled with this stage of things, I hope it opens doors for you. Because once I understood that, my job became a lot easier. So anyways, I've got this thing all the way blocked through, and it's ready to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure we have every part of him selected. And take all these keys, shift select, right click, tangents, linear. Okay, so how does this look? If I turn off the curves, just hit play. All right. It's pretty decent. There's one spot right in here where the arm doesn't do what I want, so I'll set a key on that later. But for right now, the primary thing I want to look at next is I want to look at the core. What's the core? The hips, the torso, and the head. That is the core of the character. If you can get that working, everything else flows from that. Okay. Some people may ask, well, why do you go linear? And I explained some of that in the live action section, but I mean, just to reiterate, if it looks good linear, it looks great splined if you do your job right. Okay. Because let's go ahead and select something here. We'll select the hip, and then we'll go ahead and we'll look at the old graph editor. Bring it over here and make it nice and big. And what I want to do here is it's my job to define what this motion looks like, okay? Now, there are a lot of extra keys in here. You'll notice they're like, well, got yeah, key there, key there, key there, and we'll address all of this stuff eventually. But what I'm doing here is I am defining what this motion curve is supposed to look like, based not off of making the curve look pretty, but by making this look good, okay? The problem comes when we start working in here, we want to make this look pretty. Okay, we want to make sure that the curves look nice, and we want to get rid of little things like, you know, this little hitch right here. Well, gosh, that just doesn't look nice. It wouldn't look nicer if it just went from, you know, from here and just kind of rolled up into there. But this piece right here, this little piece of motion, this hitch there, is important. I put it there for a reason. I put it there because it looked right here. Okay, this is the king of all, the camera view. We do not film this. At least I hope we don't. This is not what people pay $10 a ticket and sit in dark theaters and, you know, listen to people talk on their cell phones and buy overpriced popcorn to watch. We don't watch this, okay? This is not what's entertaining. This is. So, when it comes to time to decide what to keep, gee, something I built here or something I built here, camera wins every time. End of discussion. I'm glad we all understand this. Okay. But here I am defining what this motion curve is supposed to look like. I can clean this up later. You can actually see how I can clean it up, how I can remove redundant things. But the important thing is that I have defined what this motion is supposed to look like. And if I like it now, all I have to do is maintain this characteristic in this curve for every one of these attributes, after I've cleaned them up, of course, which is the next stage. All I have to do is maintain this characteristic of motion for this curve for the motion to feel the same, to have the same energy, to have the same general overall feel to it. All I have to do is just not ruin what I've already built, okay? So I tend to work core out, getting back to the core thing. The core is the hips, the torso, and the head. And what I'd like to do, if my rig supports it, is I like to build a layer for the arms, and I just turn that stuff off, okay? I turn off the arms stuff, and I try and keep things right down to, turn that to reference. This is it, right here. This is what I try to clean up. And you can see that everything is right there. I'm not distracted by arms and stuff like that. I'll clean that up later. If there's motion hitches in the arms, I'm a fool to waste my time trying to clean up an arm path on top of a hip path that hasn't been cleaned yet, okay? Because the arm is pretty much, it is a child of the hips, okay? So if I make the hips go like this, well, the arm's going to go up too, see? If the hips go up, the arms go up. So why in the world am I going to set keyframes all along the arm controls to fix an arm arc problem or motion path problem or a hitching problem if I haven't cleaned up the hips first? It's just like, that's dumb, you know? It's like cleaning the pan before you cook. Okay, you get, you know, better tasting stuff, I suppose. Maybe that's not a great analogy, but you get the idea, right? It's just doesn't make any sense. You want to clean up the core first, and since the root is the root of everything, 90%, I'm really going to come out and say 90% of your motion hitches in your character's eyes, in their head, in their arms, a lot of this stuff is going to happen right here, right here. Right here. In case you don't notice, let me go in, and we'll zoom in, and we'll right here. Okay, that's where the problems start. Okay, the reason why is because everything rides off of that. In most rigs, that's how it works. Okay, so what I do is I clean this stuff up first. Well, how do I do that? Well, first you turn off things, and then I go literally one controller at a time, one attribute at a time. And what I try to do is I try to test every key frame or data point, okay? I test every one of these things to make sure it is doing what I want. You know, could I scrub through here and see the stuff? Yeah, I could scrub through here. But I just use this little play script instead. And what I'm doing is I'm just looking to see what the motion path looks like for the hips, okay? And because I did my job way back in the posing stage, there aren't a lot of problems with this because if you remember from me posing this out in VTS23, I took time to work out a lot of these problems while these were just still drawings and there was no in-betweens. I worked out the arcs of the hips. I worked out the arcs of the head. I worked out the arcs of the shoulders to make sure that the images played well together. You can clean up your scene when you're blocking your scene. And trust me, folks, kids, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea, it is much easier to clean up these kinds of problems when you're just dealing with drawings back and forth, okay, than it is to try and clean them up in the spaghetti box, this thing. Here, what can you tell? I can move something right here, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what that's doing to my character. I really don't know what that's doing to my character because I can't see it, okay? So let's say, oh, okay, well, what if you look at it? All right, so I'll go ahead and look at the rotate X, and I start moving this thing around. Now I can see what's going on, okay? But you're not looking here. You're looking here when you clean this stuff up. All right, that's enough ranting and raving about why I do things. Let's show you how. Okay, first thing I want to look at is one attribute at a time. As I get in here, I literally go through them one at a time in linear, and I just determine how I want this to look when I'm moving it, okay? A couple of things I know about computer animation. I know that this right here is going to feel like an ease out. I don't think I want an ease out here, but I'm going to test it to make sure. He's going back. This is translate X, so I know he's kind of moving to the side, burning into a bit of an extreme, all right? And then he's going to come to the side. Do I want to ease into that or want to go fast into that? Well, I think maybe we'll go ahead and we can fix that. And it does change the nature of things quite a bit. So I have to say to myself, okay, gosh, is that something I want? Do I want it back here? And it seems to be affecting his Z depth because that's the channel we're driving here. But he is swinging forward. So I do want this to come up a bit because I know that this kind of a curve the computer is going to like more, and that's going to be a little bit smoother. It will get rid of any little forward back hitch that's going on there, okay? So I just test that data point to make sure it's okay. So we're kind of doing a little bit of a slow in, a fast through, and a slow out, okay? So I come through. There's no major hitches in here that I can tell, not on this channel. And this is what I do. I just kind of look at the channels and I say, oh, well, you know, what do I like? And to a certain degree, I do look at the curves and say, well, based off of my experience, I realize that this is going to feel a little harsh right here. And then maybe I want to ease that a bit. So what I'll do is I'll go here and I'll just ease that a bit. Just to kind of give a bit slow, and then he can go quicker through here. Because I want him to kind of feel like he's slowly losing his balance and then he quickly falls. So what we can do is just bring this down to kind of build that up, and then he can slowly lose his balance and then quickly fall, all right? The important thing here, though, is to just test all of these data points and make sure they work the way I want. Like right here, I want him to fall faster. But this, as you can tell, is a pretty linear piece of equipment right here. I mean, all this right here, going from here to here, there's not much being defined. And I know that I want him to fall quickly. And I know that falls tend to be very linear. You don't ease into hitting the ground. You don't, because that will make him feel like he's floating. So I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to create an ease here, okay? I don't want to do that because that creates a sense that he's floating, and I don't want that. I want it to feel like he's falling hard. So if anything, I will create more of an ease in to this move here, or an ease out of this pose, I guess, however you want to define it. And I will create a faster fall here. And so as I play this, you see how it speeds up as it goes, because what's happening is it is going faster here. And that's really what I wanted to do. So I'm just thinking in terms, you do have to think through the motion, and you do have to understand what function curves are going to do for you, okay? And so that's it. I have now cleaned up the X translate channel for this character, for this move, for this scene. You're thinking, but it's all linear. Dude, yeah, it's all linear, but I'll teach you how to clean this up in Spline, but this is it. You're done. Unless you got a major problem that you notice later on. There you go. That's, you know, you can make all these things smooth and put nice little spline tangents in there, but with enough keys, with the right breakdowns, the right eases, the right drawings, in the right positions, with the right cleanup, defining the nature of the move, I have literally cleaned up just this channel. Okay, so let's go take a look at this channel. Now I've got some things here, so let me zoom in. First thing, is, let me come back here, zoom in. This moving hold, he's settling down. And then there's like a little bit of a down, and then he comes up. Okay? I like that he's going down, but what would it feel like if he went up? Would it feel a little ping-pongy? Yeah, it feels a little ping-pongy. I don't like that. So maybe we won't have him go down quite so much. But I do want him to kind of dip down here, and I don't even mind pushing that just a little bit more. And I'll do that here. You know, I'll make the pose stronger here, the motion. But what that's doing is it is kind of making it feel a little hard right there. But we can work with the little eases using our curves and stuff, you know, the tangents later. Okay? So he comes up into that, and he's going to be growing into a hold extreme, and he's going to quickly move through this. Now I do want him to come down. Do I want him to ease into coming down? I don't know. What would that look like if I do this? I actually like him easing. Since I eased his X translate right here, I'm going to go ahead and ease this key as well, building this, and he will pop down. Now normally if I were cleaning this up and I wasn't thinking about it, I'd be like, well man, get rid of these, just have them go like that. But if you take a look at the motion, it loses. I mean, yeah, it's smooth, but look at it, it's smooth straight across. It's really, it has no flavor, there's no weight to it, it's just floating straight across. So I know that's not what I want to do. Okay, I want him to dip down as he reaches for this. So I want him to dip down because that creates this arc. All right, it's important for me to have that arc in the hips, because if I have it there, I have it everywhere. All right, and so then he comes up over the top. Do I want him to ease into this? Sure, I want him to ease into it. I like how it played out, so I don't really feel a need to change any of this stuff. I like how it is. I am noticing that it's kind of going under and then over here. If you notice the pattern of the curve, it's doing an under curve and then an over curve, and I'm not sure I like that, because the general flavor of the move is feeling like it wants to go over. So again, let's just take a look at what this looks like. What would this look like if I had this up a bit? That's okay, because it's up there. Let me turn on my legs to make sure that I'm not doing anything with the legs that's really messing it up. No, it looks good. The weight's still pretty decent, but you know, looking at it, I'm not sure I like that, because he does feel a little weightless being up there. And you got to be careful not to make things too smooth, because life is not smooth, okay? So don't give in to that hobgoblin of always making things smooth. There's a weight that when he comes down like that, I actually kind of like. I don't want to lose that weight. And you really see it right here when he comes across. You see how he plants that foot and his hips come down? That's what this curve right here is doing. Now this, you're going to have one of these, many of these, in every scene you animate. This is what I call the counterintuitive keyframe on the curve. That's a really long way of saying this doesn't look good, but it's exactly what you want, okay? I wish Maya had a way of me making a sticky note that every time I moused over this data point, a little note would pop up saying, you like this, leave it alone. But I don't, so I have to kind of keep track of it in my head or on a piece of paper to the side. Frame 32, hip translate Y, I like it going like this. Yes, I know that to make the curve pretty, it looks better like this, okay? But that's not the motion I want. I need that weight transfer onto that foot. And to get that, I need this Y translate down in the hips. I just need it, okay? So it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like I want it to look in here. But again, remember what wins. This is why I mentioned this before. Camera wins, graph editor loses, okay? We're not supposed to make pretty looking curves. We're supposed to make good looking animation. Sometimes good looking animation makes curves that look goofy, like this. But that is important, so I'm not changing it, okay? So I think, okay, well, what about this one? Do I need to fix this one? But then what happens there is I've just made this a very linear move, and it kind of loses some weight again. It's like he's sliding from A to B. So I don't like it. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to trust my drawings. I like my drawings. When I play it, it feels good. And so I'm just going to work with it right now. And if anything, that's fine. And then when he comes across here, maybe he stays up a bit. And I want this to come down maybe just a bit more, just to give some weight to it. And weight. And maybe this can drop a bit more too. And then we want this weight to just drop off, and here he's easing into the landing. I don't want that. I want him to fall. So we'll kind of make it slow here, and then he eases into it, and then he quickly goes down. Okay, and let's just pull that down, pull him through the floor, because we want that. The texture I want for this is, you know, that's the texture I want, is that slow, you know, that stumbling over kind of thing. That's what I want to see. Okay, and I see that with the hips. Okay, and you say, well, there's a hitch right there. Yes, there's a hitch right there, but that's because he's shifting his weight on his feet as he's trying to catch his weight. So there's a hitch, but you have to make sure that you don't get too crazy about ripping all your hitches out, because what you'll do, and this is very common in cleanup, is guys will suck the life right out of their animation. You'll suck the life right out of your animation by trying to clean up all these little things, but life is filled with little things like that. So it's good to capture those little things sometimes. Don't be slavish about, you know, recreating them exactly, but you want to be sure that you're following what you're doing in your scene. That's why you need to have an understanding of what it is you're doing when you're cleaning this stuff up. Okay, you have to know what your choices were when you set the keys in the first place. If you're just setting keys willy-nilly, you don't really know why. It's easy to just make too many changes in here and not understand why you're changing things, and it ends up sucking the life right out of the thing. Okay, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to keep that flavor of motion, and I wanted to keep this sense of weight dropping right there. Okay, and it drops, but you notice really the big problem, it doesn't feel too bad even though the hips are dropping, because his head, his eyes have a pretty good path. Okay, there's a little bit of a pop right there, but we'll fix that later. Okay, ultimately when you come right down to it, if you can make the eyes and any extremities move in a very clean line, you can get away with murder on the core. But it's good to clean up from here on out. What I mean by clean line is the eyes move on a very clean path. They're easy to follow. His expression is easy to read. And that's just all, it's because that's where the audience is looking. The audience is looking at his eyes. We feel the rest, but we see this. Okay, this is where we're looking. So as long as your head has a pretty good clear path of motion, that's really what we're trying to fix here. All right, and a good place to fix it, of course, is starting at the root. So I'm liking this. You know, I may not like it later on. I may change it. I'm not saying that I'm never going to touch this stuff again when I say I'm done with it, but at this pass, I like it. Notice I'm not doing a lot of play blasts here. I'm just checking things, and I'm doing some scrubbing mainly to show you guys things. I don't scrub this much when I'm working. I'll usually just kind of go through here and just step through them with my little hotkeys to go from one keyframe to the next. The hotkeys are the period and the comma key on the keyboard by default, in my anyways. And so I'm just checking the path of things, and yes, there is that little bit of a weight drop right there, and if I don't remember that I have something going on here, I'll forget. Okay, now he is kind of floating sideways there, so what I want to do is I want to get a little bit more of that going down. He is going to be falling here, so I don't want him to feel like he's sliding sideways in the air. Okay, he's going down, but then he goes down quickly here. Okay, boom, off the ground. All right, so you're going to have these counterintuitive keyframes, you know, where the curve is not going to look pretty, but again, remember, the curve is not what we're filming. This little dip in the curve and this little dip in the curve, I want them. I put them there when I posed it, and I double check them in the curve editor to make sure that they weren't mistakes or just sloppy work on my part, but that's what I want, okay? And so I just go through more channels doing exactly the same thing, and it actually gets quite dull, but it's important to go through all this stuff. Let's see what it's like if I make this a little bit stronger. You know, what if I push this? Yeah, I like that. Sometimes I can push a pose a little bit in here too. You know, I want that to be a little bit bigger. And here, I have this thing where it's counterintuitively popping up. I know the other two channels, I eased that key. Okay, so somewhere in my posing, I didn't ease this enough. So I'm just going to favor it back a bit. just so that I have that slow in, and then he goes quickly through it. All right, and that's got the energy that I want. So I wanted this to be more of an ease in, and I didn't build it the way I wanted to build it, so I ended up having to, do it the right way in here, and that's fine. But see how easy that was? I've already built it. I'm just adjusting it here. All right, so then here's another one of those counterintuitive keys. Or is it? I don't know. What do I want this to look like? Do I want this? No, I don't want that. See, if I change it, remember, this is the same one we had before. This is where he plants that foot. So you need that weight coming down. And that weight coming down happens on all three translate axes. Okay? I already left the Y alone, and I don't want to pull back on the Z, because what will happen is that weight just disappears. See that? The weight's gone. And I made my curve pretty, but I ruined my animation. Okay? Verify your curves to your animation. Animation is king, curve is queen, or, okay, for you people who believe in equal rights, curve is slave. Okay, well, no, that's not nice either. Curve is dog. No, animal rights people won't like that. Curve is an amoeba. Okay, I don't know anybody who's upset about amoeba rights. Okay, so there you go. Just having a little fun with you folks. I just having fun. Don't read anything more into that than you need to. So I want this weird kind of clunking down in the curve because I want this weight. And if anything, maybe I'll accentuate it by clunking it down a little bit more to try and put more weight on it. Is that what I want? Come back here, play it. No, I don't really like that either. So I'm just going to go back with what I had. Okay? Which was right about there. Okay? The weight comes down. And here we go. All right, I have another one right here, another one of these dips in this curve, and I'm thinking, well, is this what I want? I don't know. What's that look like if I hold that back and just make this more linear? Of course, being linear isn't very interesting, but maybe that's what I want. That's fine there, but I really think I want to do a little bit more of a drop right here. I want this to come because I want it. Well, see, but then I don't like that either because that ruins my motion path a little bit. I want to mix it up. I want to have some sense of weight in here. And how much do I mess with the curves versus just stick with what I had in the poses? Usually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and stick with what I had in the drawings. I'm not going to get too crazy about this stuff. I'm going to trust my drawings, okay? And when he falls away quickly. Maybe he can fall away even quicklier, if that's possible. So he comes over here and he falls away quicklier. Definitely want a sense of him kind of going quickly off screen, slow through here and then scramble, fall quick. Okay, so that slow through is this business right here. That weight shift thing is right there. It's this little down hitch right there. Okay. We had another down hitch right there, and that's how I had the weight built into it. Okay? Now, that's all looking good. And I go through, and I'm going to look at all these curves for the rotates. Okay? And literally, I could be here, for a couple of hours just talking through every single one of these channels. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm just going to show you what it looks like with the torso cleaned up, and explain what the overall goal of that is. I'm not going to bore you by sitting here and narrating while I animate and clean up curves for hours. Although I could probably stretch this out into a good couple of months and make some easy money. That's not really what I'm after. I'm here to teach you, and then you can apply these things. Really, the important things is the non-intuitive keyframes. Always trust your animation if it works. If it works on screen, if the motion arcs are clean, if everything's good on screen, don't mess with it. If the weight you wanted is there, trust it, okay? Especially if you've taken the time to really clean this stuff up back when you were just stepping through images, okay? So here, rotations are the same thing. Rotations are these things, and they affect how things work. And again, you just clean them up the same way. I've got these kind of down and up sort of things with the rotations, and so I'm thinking, well, gosh, do I want to make that this? No, I don't want to do any of that stuff, okay? It's messing up my drawing. Do I want to ease through this? I don't know. Do I want to? No, I don't like that. It's if I ease out of that, try to make that a pretty drawing, it messes up my pose. I don't like it. What if I do this? Maybe I could try that. Get it because it's a more extreme version of it. And I could go with that maybe. And then when he's here, oh gosh, do I want to ease back out of that? Yeah, maybe I could. Maybe I could ease back out of that, And then he kind of straightens up a bit. And then you're thinking, well, gosh, this is a weird little hitch right here. What if I did this? But I'm kind of losing something there, because then all of a sudden the motion, he pops. See how he pops up right there? And you're thinking, well, gosh, if anything, he would pop up more when it was back, but it doesn't work that way. Notice how he comes out of that smoother, even though it's rotated the other direction. How crazy is that, So it's really, you don't fall into the trap of making the curves pretty. Okay, the curves represent your decisions that you've already made. Trust your decisions you've already made. So I'm going back to that trust and confidence thing. Trust your work, have confidence, and know if you know what you're doing. If you put things in here for a reason, you weren't just scrubbing away and haphazardly dropping keyframes hither and thither. If you were putting things in here for a reason, then you will be able to go through this stuff and rip through it. I mean, I'm taking a long time to explain my thought processes behind every one of these little things. But really, this stuff takes me, per attribute, 5-10 minutes maybe. And then what I will do is I will not play blast this thing until I clean up every one of these controllers in the core. Okay? I turn off everything and I get it working the way I want. I will clean up every one of these controllers. The hips first, and then each of the spine things, all the way up through the head. And I will clean each of these things in linear. Okay? And you're thinking, well, gosh, Keith, why are you staying in linear, man? Why don't you just clean that stuff up in spline? Wouldn't it be easier? Wouldn't it look better? Wouldn't it be faster? Actually, no. It ended up being slower. At least for me, it always was. And next month, you're going to understand why I stay in linear, because when you see how I clean up the spline, you'll say, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Next month, I'll clean up the limbs, and then start getting into the spline stuff. But really, it goes back to this idea right here. That this right here looks like a fairly well-developed motion curve. Okay? Quite literally, you could just, throw this thing into spline and clean up some of the extra keys, take some of these keys and, get rid of the ones that don't really change the nature of things, and you're done. And it's a nice, decent-looking piece of motion. Because the computer is dumb. It only knows how to do simple things. A to B. Don't ask it to try and be too clever. It can't figure out from here to here in a nice way unless you start asking it to, spline things. But I would rather, this motion has my fingerprint on it. I wanted it to feel like this. Okay? Let's say I go ahead and I turn on buffer curves. View, show buffer curves. And let's take a look at this right here. We'll open this up a bit more so we can really take a look at it. You may say, well, why not just go to spline? Well, yeah, I could go to spline. So let's say I take this thing right here, and I think, well, really, he's just coming from a top here to a bottom here. So, why don't you just go ahead and, just get rid of all this stuff and just go ahead and spline it? Well, okay, make that flat, and I'll go ahead and make that flat. All right. See the difference between the gray and the white? The white is the computer's idea. The gray is my idea. One has flavor and texture. The other one is just linear blah. Oh, it's nicely eased right at the ends. And it's a little okay right here, but then it starts losing flavor, okay? Oh, you may say, okay, well, maybe that's just a bit much. So how about we just go ahead and we turn all this. Let's say we keep these, but, from here to here, you really just don't need these, You just get rid of those and make that flat, and we'll make these spline. And, I can go ahead and I can take the curve and I can kind of, I can make it pretty close. Yeah, you can make it pretty close. But you are losing some of this flavor here, all right? So what I want to do is I want to define my animation. There are things here This is close, but it is not the same as what I wanted to do. All right. So for me, the important thing is to define the motion the way I want. And I do believe that these little shades of difference are significant. Okay, they are not insignificant things, because when you start adding them up, if every piece of your character is super smoothed out like that, and every attribute has that kind of lack of character to it, then what you end up with is this just over buttery animation that just doesn't have any sense of flavor to it. Instead, I prefer to just take all this stuff and make it look good, throw it in a spline, and then only get rid of the things I know I can get rid of. Look at that. All right, so I go ahead and I'm keeping it very close to the line right here. Okay, and I will take a look at this stuff and say, all right, that's what I want, and I will only get rid of the keys that I really don't need. Okay, but even here, you know, this I can go right through that key point right there just by tweaking the handles a little bit, and I'll do that. And so this is how I clean up my splines. All right, I make this stuff look pretty good, but I'm still traveling through each of these key points. Okay, I mean, this one right here, I'm off it a little bit, but I'm still really close to it. But now the curve is really nice and smooth. Thus, I go back to the old adage: if it looks good in linear, it'll look great in spline, if you know what you're doing with your curves. Okay, this is important for me, because when I do this stuff, I'm not even thinking anymore. Well, I'm thinking. I take that back. But it's not. I'm not trying to find my motion here. I've already defined it. My motion has already been built. I've already cleaned it up. I already like it. I already know what it is. All I'm doing here is just kind of meeting a certain style requirement of making it smooth, because that's what they expect in computer animation. I'll be honest with you, I have accidentally turned in scene files where everything was linear. And and we're not talking like, you know, internet animation here either. I'm talking like, you know, stuff has gotten on a big screen that accidentally got left in linear, but it was so cleaned up and it had everything so worked out that nobody noticed and nobody cared. Because it was there. And it's important for me that I'm always on this mission. Anybody who's been in VTS long enough knows I'm on this mission to make my ideas come through, to express my concepts in animation, not let the computer do it for me. Okay, so I clean through the important things. Always play and work inside of the camera. Check your arcs, check your paths, check your motion paths, check your weight, check and make sure everything's moving the way you want it to. Clean up the core, because everything rides from the core. The head is the eye travel. If there's any hierarchy of what's the most important thing to track, the eye tracking through the scene is probably it's probably the most important thing. And then if you have large extremities like hands and things like that swinging through, those are next. Okay, eyes first, large extremities second. But in order to clean all this stuff up, you need to clean up the root, because in most CG rigs the root drives everything. All right, so you clean up the root right through the core, and that's at the risk of repeating myself, which I'm going to do. This is the stuff that everything else rides on. No use cleaning up arms, no use cleaning up all these little external things until you get this stuff working. You get this stuff working, the rest cleans itself up. It really does, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit more later on next month. All right, I hope that was helpful. Hope it wasn't too confusing. I hope I didn't rush through it. I've included in this zip package two copies of some Play Blasts at full frame rate. One is I went through off camera and cleaned up all the attributes on the core, really worked out some motion paths for the eyes and the heads. You really want the head to read clean, because we read the face. All the other stuff we feel, but the audience is usually, if there's a character's face on screen, they're gonna 9 times out of 10 be looking at that. Okay, so you want the motion path of the heads in any large action like this to be clean. Okay, it doesn't mean it has to be smooth like it's on a track. It just needs to be clean. Okay, you don't want it to jerk and pop around. And so I cleaned out the core, all right, from the hips right through the head, Try to get the hips traveling well, but while still keeping that weight that's important for us. Remember, we didn't want to lose that weight with those non-conformed keyframes in the graph editor. You know, those non-intuitive ones, the ones that felt like, oh gosh, but if I make my curve pretty, I'll pull it up. Well, you'll also ruin the motion, all right? No, you leave it down if it's down. Or maybe you got this weird jig-jag thing and you want to clean that up, but you can't, man. You got to leave it where it is. So anyways, I cleaned that out, and I give you two examples. One with the limbs turned off, where you can just see the core of the body, how it's cleaned up, and how smooth and how well it moves, just in linear. And then I turned on the limbs as well, so you can see how it all plays together. And you see that it's already taking great shape. And this is not a simple piece of action. I mean, the guy's there's a lot going on here. It's fairly physical. He's swinging around. There's a little bit of acting in it as well, but it's a pretty over the top kind of piece. And the reason why I chose this is to kind of show you that the workflow works. It works no matter which scene you're kind of approaching. Okay, so check those, watch them, study them, try and figure out what I'm doing. Frame through them, do whatever you want to do. I mean, they're there for your reference if you want to look at them. Okay. Next month we're going to get in, and I'm going to show you about cleaning up the limbs, and then we're going to start looking at how to review and refine your work. Okay, that's another important step, because I didn't really cover that too much this month, but there's a smarter way, a less painful way to check your work. Okay, and so we're going to cover that next month as well. Anyhow, great stuff to have you guys around. I appreciate everything you guys do for me. I appreciate you sticking with me, for being good subscribers, for being great customers. 2 years, and we just got started, and may we have another 2 years. All the best. God bless, and I'll see you next month.